The legend of Mike Roth comes from the 2010 third game against Clemson. You're asked to start.
He's like, have you ever thought about throwing sidearm? And I'm like, why the hell would I throw sidearm?
I didn't text anybody and blacked out in Mallorca the next day. And
What's the fastest fastball you ever thrown in your life?
So,
all right. Good morning, tailgaters. The boys had a big weekend.
How you feeling?
I felt better. We're a couple days removed. I sound like partially because of the weekend, but man, we had fun.
It was unbelievable. That was a long weekend. Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah, Thursday got in an episode, got in a great meal at home team. Always great food here in Columbia, and then Friday we ventured all over Columbia. Started at the Villaggio, Village Idiot, where all of our dreams and nightmares all happened.
All at the same place.
Yep. Thanks to Brian at Village Idiot, the owner of Village Idiot, for letting us come through. And we got to highlight that episode because that's the one that we're talking about today. We had Mike Roth on that episode. Golly, he's hilarious.
I mean, that was unbelievable. I mean, to the point where, he's guilty as charged with the stories. We gotta cut this thing in half, man.
Yeah,
we gotta do a part A and part B.
Yeah, we recorded for over 2 hours. The content was absolutely incredible. I walked out of there and I FaceTimed Kirsten and the kids and why are you smiling? And I'm like, I've just been laughing for the last 2 hours. I just have a constant smile.
It just brought back so many memories of sitting us three and pretty much everybody else just drinking beer and having a couple of slices of Village Idiot pizza, man.
Yeah,
shooting the
beer still phenomenal, pizza still phenomenal. So yeah, but with Roth we talked about recruiting, we talked about everything. In 2.5 hours we talked about everything. But he has an incredible story from how he got recruited to how he started to his start in the 2010 College World Series, and then his 2011 season, and then 2012 season, and then his pro game, and all that. He has an incredible story, and he's quite the student athlete, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Academic All-American. How many times?
Academic All-American. You and I,
three
not
or four
so much.
times. No, I think I got one. An SEC maybe. I got to go check my plaques.
You had 1 3-0 semester. Congrats, bro.
Yeah, I wasn't there to. What do you say? I wasn't there to play school.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully everybody. Let's finish off. We went from Village with Roth, and then we went over to another one of our awesome sponsors, Granger Owings, and they fitted you for a suit. I got a sport coat. They really pimped us out. We talked about some exciting stuff we have coming up with them here in a couple months, which we'll disclose here soon.
Yeah, I got to shed some poundage before that operation.
That was pretty funny. And then we left there. Just a baseball weekend just about. And then we went to Steel Hands, where the beer was still great and the food was even better, but the company was damn good too, because Christian Walker, not only can he knock the shit out of a baseball, but he can knock down some beers too.
Oh yeah. We had quite the plethora of beers going on there. Got a chance to meet Dakota's parents, who are a lot funnier than Dakota. So sorry you have to hear that, Dakota. The truth hurts sometimes, bud.
Yeah, but and then Sunday we woke up and we linked up with Travian Robertson, former teammate, class of 07, Gamecock great, now current staff member at South Carolina. So just all in all, phenomenal weekend.
Yeah, man. And before the Travian thing, I went to a Hollow Creek Distillery over there in Lake Murray, and was literally just pulling bourbon out of the barrels and drinking it with the owners. It was an all-time day. The freaking setup is gorgeous. Had a nice little buzzito going with Travian, and then he was like, "Hey, man, where are the beers at?" And I was like, "Well, let's go. We'll go to Jay's Corner and
kept the party going."
And we did.
Travian can knock him back too. He might be like the calm, cool. He might not have partied with us in college, but he'll drink us under the freaking floor now.
I'll tell you what, man. He opened up out of his shell significantly when you get some cold beers going on.
Yeah,
it was great.
No, but all in all, a fantastic weekend. Big weekend for the boys at Tailgate Talks, and thanks for all the people that helped put it together. Becca at home team, Brian at Village, Vaughn at Granger Owings, Ashley at Steel Hands,
Tiffany at Hollow
Tiffany at
Creek.
Hollow Creek, like just great people. That's why they're our sponsors, right? These are people that we like to work with that have a great product and really embody what we embody, and that's just top of the line, and they love the Gamecocks.
Yep, absolutely, man. I'm finally recovered, man. Yesterday had to sit in the steam room and the sauna for a little bit and kind of get a little cold plunge going, but I'm back to 100% now.
Yep. Well, enjoy the first half of Mike Roth's 2.5-hour episodes. It's great, and then we got another special guest coming for you next week.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
All right. We got some academic All-Americans over here. Pat DiMarco, Mike Roth.
I mean, I would say we were all conference 5-pointers, All-American Village years. I think we can all.
Perfect attendance at the Village A, for sure.
Absolutely. Didn't miss class here.
I mean,
Never.
So first off, thanks to Brian, owner here, for letting us come out and record this episode here. Thanks, Mike, for traveling down from Greenville to hang out with us.
Of course.
Yeah, you were a really good student here at South Carolina.
Hey, I knew that if I could behave in the classroom, I'd get a little more leeway on some other stuff.
We talked to Tanner last night. He told us some Mike Roth stories.
Oh, yeah.
Too. So
If he told us how smart you were,
I'm sure he did.
he let us know.
He also said you were a smart ass, which we know that as well.
100%.
It's this old saying, though. It's better to be a smart ass than a dumbass.
But
Always.
you killed it. 26-6, your career record here at Carolina. You won 2 national championships. Played in it 3 times during your time here. So tell us about how you ended up here at Carolina. Why Carolina? Were you heavily recruited? Were we the only offer? Like me? Tell us the story.
Yeah. I didn't want to come to Carolina and pitch, actually. So, when I was getting recruited, I was actually trying to come here to play first base.
Yeah.
Like, Justin Smoke was playing at Carolina, and he was
Pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty
Solid.
good. Yeah, pretty good player. And he was getting drafted. That was his junior year. So my next year was like kind of coming in to come there. So like I loved baseball, right? But I liked playing. I'm not much of like watching stuff. Even now, I've been 6-7 years out of my playing career. I don't really pay attention to sports a whole lot.
Yep.
I just enjoy playing and competing.
Yep.
So I pitched in high school, but I liked playing every day, and as a pitcher, you played every few days,
Right.
And so when I was coming here, I was hoping to play first base, and I just wasn't good enough,
Tanner was a straight shooter.
Yeah, I just wasn't good enough, and Coach Tanner, I'll blame him and say he messed up my swing, but no, I just wasn't good enough, and so the only way for me to get on the field was the pitch, and so that's how I started throwing sidearm because I was playing first base. Mark Calvi. So it was my freshman year. Showed up, couldn't get on the field.
What are you going to be?
Yeah, like Vermeer did. I was going against Ebert, and he hit 30 home runs that year. With the bats that were tennis rackets.
Yeah.
And so then I went off to the summer and played first base and had fun in Sanford, Maine. It was great. Felt like I was in a good position, but I mean, I was already, what I was walking into was an open spot at first base, which was really no longer open anymore. Yep. And came back into the fall, and I ended up pitching as a freshman because we weren't very good. My freshman year, there weren't many other lefties. We weren't a very good team. We lost in regionals, at ECU, which was the meanest place to play, by the way. The Pirates. Yeah,
We got a question for you after that.
We can come back to that, but they were terrible fans, man. Talking about your mom, it's just her. And so when I came back, I was we at fall practice, and I was turning double plays at first base, like field a ground ball and throwing it to second base. And Mark Calvi walked up to me and was like,
That's a good arm angle.
yeah, he's like, have you ever thought about throwing sidearm? And I'm like, why the hell would I throw sidearm? And he's like, well, if you want to pitch, like, you're going to have to figure something out. Like, you're not like good against lefties, and we need you to be good against lefties. We've already got righties that can get righties out. I was like, all right. So that's kind of where it spurred from there, and how it changed my career.
Well, I remember like you DH'd a little bit.
Yeah.
In college while you were pitching.
I remember that.
Like you'd throw on Friday,
Yeah.
and on Sunday you might come in and DH. You always had to kind of be ready.
Yeah.
Which I don't.
Which was awesome.
Did you play outfield a couple games too?
Coach Chandler let me play outfield.
Okay.
I don't think I ever got any innings out there. No. But I mean, I played some in like fall practice and stuff. I mean, I loved it. It was so fun.
Well, I mean, Tanner yesterday or last night was saying that he didn't even need outfielders with Jackie Bradley back there.
That's true.
No, seriously. I
He
mean,
told the outfielders, he's like, hey, hold the line. hold
Jackie
the
covered so much land in center, it was ridiculous.
Yep.
And before, and then you had Witt out there. It was insane.
Yeah.
And then Evan Marzone. I mean, we had
These guys would
the outfield
still
was ridiculous. So yeah, it was. I mean, we had. You look back on our teams, it was insane the talent.
How much of a transition was that from first base to pitching? I mean, it seems like it'd be kind of a different deal.
So like, well, you go back. Let me take a step back. So it was the summer before I was coming to Carolina, my freshman year. I was pitching at Sarge Fry, and Calvi was like, "Hey man, I know you don't really want to pitch here," and I go, "But we need lefties. Like, just pitch." And I was like, "All right." And so I mean, I was always pitching. And I was always playing first base in high school. But, like when you take it to the next level, it's just you start to specialize more.
Right.
And it became harder to do that. And especially, back then, maybe now you see more players because of like Ohtani, guys that have done some of that stuff in the big leagues. And obviously he's like a far like outlier, right? Dude's insane. But back then, there wasn't a ton of guys that pitched and played. So you're trying to break the mold some, and there's competing interests because, your pitching coach wants you to do this, don't want you get hurt, and if you're an infield or your other coach wants you to focus on that stuff. So it was, they've always felt like it was competing some.
Well, you weren't just a competitor on the baseball field. You were a competitor on the beer pong table. We got after it a bunch in college too. And
we did.
We didn't shock. It was football versus baseball. I know we did a lot of like drinking competition.
We like to compete.
Listen,
that's when I step back and look at my life now. Like I said, I liked baseball, but what I loved about baseball was the competition,
beating somebody's ass.
Yeah, kicking someone's ass. And so there's other avenues to do that.
You got to be dangerous.
Well,
It got to be dangerous.
You kicked everyone's ass in the classroom too.
Yes,
sir. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Tell us about, really the Mike Roth. The legend of Mike Roth comes from the 2010.
Yeah.
You were both in pitcher almost most of the year. You pitched a little bit.
Exclusively. Yeah.
And then 2010, third game against Clemson, series is tied 1-1.
Uh-huh.
You're asked to start. Is that your first start that year? Or did you start midweek maybe?
I think it was my first start that year. I think I maybe started like one midweek game my freshman year. It's hard to remember, but I'm pretty sure that was like the first start that year.
So, how did that come about? Because I heard there's a little backstory.
Where were you and what were you doing?
What's the backstory on that? Yeah, there is a backstory. Well, yeah, so that year, I was like the lefty specialist. I was throwing sidearm, and so I would come in and focus. Like, I would come in and face a lefty only, and basically like
get
the lefty out.
What else do you want?
Yeah, and then like I get the hook, like I'd throw like one batter, maybe two batters, and then Tanner would come out and pull me. In fact, so much it happened one time. I think I got a lefty out, and I just started walking off the field, just because I knew the righty was coming up next, but the inning wasn't over, and so I got to the first baseline, was walking, and then I was like, oh, the inning's not over.
You're not ripping me
out. No, they did. That was the thing. They did, Mac. They did, but I had to go back to the mound, and then they had called time, and then I had to go back in. So I was thinking ahead, because I'm so smart.
Yeah.
Big brain.
That's fine.
But yeah, so we we lost the first game to Oklahoma, and our buddy Adam Matthews and I were roommates, and when we got there, we're like, man, at least we made it here. Like we lost our first game. We were playing Arizona State, and it wasn't that we didn't think we could win, but we were just like, well, I guess we should pack our shit up, in case like we have to leave the next day.
Yeah.
And so we played Arizona State and won, and like they kicked their ass pretty good that game. And so like Adam and I were pretty much like packed the whole time, like we like repacked our stuff, and then we go and play Oklahoma. And I think like the night before the Oklahoma game, we went to like a bar or something and had some drinks, and we're just sitting there, and we played the Oklahoma game, and that was like a extra inning game that we won.
Celebratory.
Yeah.
Standard
So the
football.
extra inning game, and then so after that, it's like the pandemonium of that game. We won, and then we also like at the same time were delivered news that Baylor Teal passed away, but we had won and advanced, and so they're like, hey, we're playing Clemson after we won. So like getting on the bus, and Coach Robert's like, hey, Roth, can you pitch tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, man, like, yeah, do like an inning today or whatever. Like I'd pitched in the Oklahoma game.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, of course I can
Bring you in the seventh.
I was like, yeah, of course I can pitch tomorrow. Like that's what I normally did. I pitch like one or two batters, and you throw the next game one or two batters, and they're like, sure. And I didn't think anything of it. And so we like try to go to the bar, and didn't work out for me. And so we come back to the hotel, and Coach Turner walks in the room with Calby, the pitching coach, like, hey, are you good to pitch tomorrow? It's like, yeah, why are you asking me? Yeah, I can pitch. By the way, look at this, this documentary on TV. And let's just say, it was an interesting documentary that was capturing my attention. And Calby's like, well, what if we start you, And I was like, yeah, I was like, that's fine. I was like, but I'm not switching my throwing partner, which is Parker Bangs. I was like, and I want to hit BP. And
there's stipulations.
Start making the man. I was like negotiating with them. I was like, yeah, that's fine if I start, but I was like, I want to hit BP, and I'm not switching my throwing partner. Like I'm not like going to the starter routine.
Yep.
And they were like, yeah, that's fine. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, cool.
I've never felt like they told me that I was starting.
Yeah.
And I was watching this documentary. So the next day, we have breakfast, and a couple of the guys were like, hey, are you starting today? And I don't know. Like, I don't have a clue. And then my mom texted me and was like, hey, the news put out, like, she's like, good luck. And I was like, good luck with what? And she's like, sent me a link, which I think was like the Greenville News, said that I was starting.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool.
This is
And I was like, hey, sweet.
documentary was great.
And sure, that's all right. Yeah, the documentary was wonderful. Wasn't gonna have breakfast, I got to start, and then I got to hit DP, and I didn't switch my throwing partner. So
Did you hang out at BP?
So
Rosenblatt, I mean, he said it was like a freaking launch pad.
yeah, so that was the unfortunate thing. We didn't hit on the field that day. We hit inside, and Adrian Morales was like, Michael, what the hell are you doing? He's like, you're pitching today, And I'm like, Adrian, calm down. Like, I'm like, yeah, And he was all pissed that I was hitting DP, and like expending energy. So, yeah, it was a good.
But dude, I think that's a part of your mindset. It was like you were a hell of a competitor, but you were always like unfazed. Like there wasn't anything to get up for or down for. Like you were freaking like heart rate exactly the same almost all the time.
I mean, at that point,
at least it appeared.
Yeah, no, I always pitched with if I pitched with too much emotion, like I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know about football because I never really played. But to me, it seemed like you could kind of expend some energy and some excitement when you get fired up.
Right.
And in baseball, you might be able to, but I never could. Like if I got pissed, that never came out as like positive energy,
channel, Mm-hmm.
Or if I got too excited, it takes your your heart rate up too much. So I would have to, like, I was always amped up, but you'd have to like dial it back.
Were you a yoga guy? Doing it now?
No, it was just wasn't zen, man. No, it was just all that beer pong. Yeah,
Just locked in.
You were always clutching beer pong too. So the clutch
ice in the veins.
What did talk about Coach Tanner's coaching style, and like, did it fit your mold right when you got there? Did you have to kind of like come around to how Coach Tanner worked? Did Coach Tanner learn the team to kind of evolve his coaching style, or was it one way where you said no?
Yeah. Well, you asked about if I was recruited elsewhere. So, I'm from the upstate. I got recruited to Clemson, but to talk about Coach Tanner's style, I mean, I got recruited. So back then, Clemson and Leggett, Coach Leggett, was big on inviting you in for a visit and putting the hard sell on and trying to get you to commit.
Right.
You ain't leaving without.
And so, and so I went to my visit there because, I mean, I had some connections. Like my sister went to Clutch there.
Backyard too.
And it was in my backyard, but I didn't grow up a fan one way or the other. And then my mom's from England, my dad's from New York. So like we were, there was no loyalty there growing up. And when Coach Leggett asked, he was like, so who else are you talking to? What else? I was like, well, I'm talking to South Carolina. And this was really early on in kind of the recruitment. I was like, well, I'm talking with Carolina and, they're interested. He was like, well, what's there to think about? And I was like, well, there's coaching differences,
Right.
Like I think Coach Tanner's style, and I didn't really know him obviously well enough, only as much as you can when you're getting recruited.
Which they love you so much.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And they're putting the hard sell too.
They'll tell you exactly what you want to hear.
Yeah, they'll tell you what you want. And, but you could tell that Coach Tanner's coaching style was different than Coach Leggett's, and the programs were different. And so Leggett was like, well, like, what do you think's so different? And I was like, well, Coach Tanner doesn't, run in and dive into his players before the game. And I don't think he liked that, But I was like, there's a difference there.
Right.
And, so I came to Carolina because it felt like home when I visited. And I think that turned out to be true. But Coach Tanner, I think he evolved some when we were there playing, just like
When you have good teams.
when you have good teams, that's what Coach Tanner was really good at.
He's throwing a pizza in there.
Oh, pizza. I love a pie.
This is the best pizza in
I might need a refill on that deal.
Here we go.
Yeah, you know what you're doing.
It's 12:45.
That's a late.
So,
That's a late.
Late start.
I'm trying to think I got sidetracked.
Tanner's coaching style.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well,
Look at that. Beautiful. Thank you.
Tanner, when you're young, when you're a freshman and like you see players getting treated differently, you're kind of like, what the hell? Like, why is this guy, like, why does one player get treated differently than the other? But I think that was actually
He's really
because he's really damn good. But never, seriously, that was the beauty of like Coach Tanner's coaching style. He knew that he would have to treat, a player differently, and he could handle, getting cussed out and ripped versus somebody else maybe couldn't handle that same level. And
Emotional intelligence is a good thing as a coach.
right, like Coach Tanner knew, and he knew how to which players, buttons he could push, and sometimes he would do it to try to see the limit.
Yep.
And so I think that's he got a little more relaxed with us as a team. Much to his chagrin. Like he didn't necessarily want to, but I think the ridiculousness and like the stupid stuff that we would do in the dugouts allowed the team to relax.
Yep.
Even if Coach Tanner and Holbrook and the coaching staff were just, shaking and freaking.
Tense down.
Their salaries, their jobs.
Yeah, their jobs are on, and they're trusting 18 to 22-year-olds, which sounds stupid as hell. Hell, I wouldn't want to do that, Especially when I was, when I was 18.
We were here.
Yeah,
I mean,
So
he did talk about that last night, about how you just kind of were so easygoing and like lighthearted and kept everything light. But when it was time, like he mentioned that you guys had like a weird thing that like you could sense when he was like kind of on edge.
Yeah.
You were able to rally the troops, be able to go in the locker room and kind of like relay his message without like him jumping and barking.
Yeah. Well, I think like baseball's so long. I mean, it's a long game. You've got 3 hours and it's in fits and spurts, right? And so you have to, I think it's hard just generally for people to stay locked in entirely that long, you know? And so what you've got to do is you've got to find a way to like turn it on and dial it back, you know? And after being there for a couple of years, like I think Coach Tanner, I figured out how Coach Tanner liked to, you know, operate, and I had earned some respect in the locker room and knew how to like I think collectively we knew how to when to be serious.
I mean, he mentioned that.
When to screw around.
He mentioned that several times last night about just like I had, you know, my little structured deal, but the locker room is what kind of made the engine run.
I mean, it feels the same way football too.
You have to. I mean, you know, like a head coach can only do so much, and you can respect, you know, in baseball, 35 guys can respect your staff, like in the coaching staff, but you have to have some hierarchy in the clubhouse,
no doubt.
And if you don't, then if you don't have some leadership in the clubhouse, then you don't have you just won't have the right mix, you know, and like. I was lucky enough that we had some guys before me that I could point to that like Jay Brown. I mean,
okay, I was
like one of the most solid. Jay Brown, like such a solid dude, and I mean, you talk about a guy that was just always ready to get after it, you know, and but such a calm demeanor. Kyle Enders was, you know, a catcher back there.
Yeah, he's a
stud. Yeah, and he's from Riverside. Went to grew up in Greenville, where I was, where I'm from. So, I mean, you had guys like that just knew in my sophomore year how we had a young team and how to shape that young team and work with them, because there weren't many old guys on that team. I mean, you think like Christian was on that 2010 team, you know, and all those guys like Marzilli, and then you had Knee Jackie and Adam and
Whit Scott.
Yeah, Whit was on that team, and Whit was older. I mean, it was
that's guys of all different heights.
Yeah.
What's your? He mentioned that
about that when you guys played Florida in 11. I mean, we'll get to it, but like, I actually went out there. And Florida's like 6'4", 220 across the board, like almost the exact same person recruiting.
Right.
And South Carolina's like, you got one guy, he must be a pitcher who's 6'6", and then you got like Scott Wingo who's 5'9", and you're back up to 6'1", and then you're down to 5'6". And Tanner joked around. He's like,
before you criticize me,
he's like, I got a lot of criticism for recruiting to it look like me. And he's like, you know, I'm not as small as a couple of those guys that I recruited, and I'm not quite as fat as them, but they were good baseball players and ultimate competitors. So
it's funny. You make a good point. Like, we used to joke about how like Clemson had a look, you know, like they had a player profile in Florida too.
Yep.
I mean, because Kevin O'Sullivan at Florida,
he's
an offshoot from
first rounders.
They had first odds. I mean, dude, on paper they were so much better than us. But yeah, they had a look, and like Carolina was just, we always joked about it, like we were just a bunch of dudes,
a bunch of dogs
who just like came together. Yeah, and we were just tough players. You know, you had, like, I think about it, you had like Adrian Morales, who came from JUCO, and like that dude has never. There's nothing that he's never felt like he hadn't had to fight for it.
Yep.
And so he fought for everything. And that was like that bulldog mentality that he had that rubbed off on everybody was incredible. You know?
It's crazy because Coach Tanner talked about that. When they offered him, like, he came back and they're like, what are you doing? Like, he's like, it's not very good.
Yeah.
And he's like, just wait. Yeah. This guy's going to come in here and he's the ultimate competitor, ultimate leader. Guys are going to follow suit. Talk about
Coach Tanner probably saw a lot of himself in that. Like, that's how I viewed. I thought,
he's gonna love hearing that.
Yeah, they're just
Hey, he's not the AD anymore. He can't be mad at me.
But I mean, you know, Adrian had such a chip on his shoulder, and it was awesome. Like,
I feel like all y'all did well.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like that entire freaking
It was Scott. I mean, his dad was like a Clemson I think he's a Clemson Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And didn't get an offer. And I mean, he grew up in the S8 with me, and I played with Scott growing up in high school.
That's kind of wild.
And then he goes to he comes here to Carolina and just, I mean, he started playing his freshman year just because he's so good with his glove.
Yep.
He was not hitting.
Kept him on the field long enough to become a great player.
Yep.
You know?
But all you guys, you guys won 2 national championships. You guys are freaking legends here, and you will be forever. Talk about how, like, you aren't, like, what's the fastest fastball you ever thrown in your life?
So,
have you ever broken 92?
Yes.
Yes.
So I got a good story.
Tanner's 2 feet up, or
It was a foul tip though. Okay. So yeah.
Tanner would call bullshit.
First spring in pro ball, I was like throwing I was sitting at 88 to 91, and they're like, "Where did this come from?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I was like, "I promise I didn't take any shots by ass this offseason," you know, and so literally I think I hit 92 a couple times, but it was in Arizona, you know. I'm like thinking maybe it's just the air, you know, like
hot field travels farther up there.
It does, right? Exactly. That's what I was thinking. So I did hit 93. It was a foul tip, so
document
clarify. But it said 93 on the gun, so they gave me credit, you know, on whatever books it was from there.
There's not any pitchers nowadays that are throwing 86, 87, 88 mile-an-hour fastball and not getting absolutely obliterated.
Correct.
Displaced.
Why need to give it real estate?
Yeah. But, like, talk about how you manipulated your arm angles. You in a game, you threw some different arm angles to mess with people.
Yeah.
Make them think, like, did coach free you up to be like, hey, do your own thing? Or was it like, hey, throw the fastball from 3/4 the catcher was telling you?
Yeah. So eventually, I got to the point where I could, I did what I want. You know, as a sophomore, when I was facing a lefty, I was supposed to throw sidearm. So that's where I was throwing sidearm fastballs. I didn't really have a sidearm changeup at the time, but I threw a sidearm slider that
Your fastball was a changeup?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, my fastball was a changeup. Everybody else's changeup. And so our buddy Pat Sullivan taught me how to throw a slider down there.
He lives back here in Columbia now.
Yeah, we were texting the other day. And so,
Did that ever bother your elbow or shoulder, or what's like the baseball? As far as quarterback stuff, we just did internal, external.
Yeah,
that was pretty much it. And put ice in.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved working out, lifting hard. Doesn't look like it, but I always tried to lift like a hitter. I wanted to deadlift and squat, but we would have to do the shoulder stuff. And I would say the good thing about baseball when I came through, they had figured out shoulders. Shoulders. If you did the shoulder exercises, you pretty much were
going to refill now.
Catching up.
You were going to be okay. But
there wasn't any sort of stringent to where you had to do it on your off days. You had to do.
Billy Anderson was y'all's strength.
Yeah, Billy was our guy. He was awesome. Yeah, I love Billy. Billy would let me kind of do my own thing too. And so we had to do our arm care work, and we would have to go through and do stuff with Brainerd, who was our trainer, who was also awesome. And we would have to do it, but I mean, they trusted us to do it. And I also, we recognized hey, this is the stuff that keeps me going out there.
Right.
It's not a big deal to do that stuff.
I got a funny story about my time I was playing in Buffalo. One of the trainers was I rarely ever got hurt. It was always pretty strong. It was never really explosive, twitchy. And I was like, why am I always so loose? And it's well, you're not explosive. But the good thing is you never get hurt. And I'm like, so what do you mean? When you stretch me, what happens if you stretch somebody who's really good? And they're they're a really tight Irvin. You're a really old, really loose, worn down Irvin man. But the perks is you never get hurt. We're so resilient. And I worked my ass off, and this is all I got.
Right.
And God only gives you so much.
Correct.
But I will say, none of us are the strongest, fastest, most explosive people.
We never got hurt.
Damn healthy.
Yeah. No, seriously. You're 100% right. We joked for baseball, we would always be mass equals gas. The bigger you are, the harder you threw. I joked because I never threw that hard. But we also would say, hey man, you can't pull fat, I never had an oblique issue. I never had any core problems. But there were guys that were cut up and had abs that would pull an oblique, and they were out for 6 weeks. So
What's the golfer that said that? It was like nicotine plus.
He's John Daly.
Yeah, what do you say? Nicotine plus something equals protein.
that sounds like
There was something he said. I gotta look at it. That was unbelievable.
All right, so talk about 2011. Like 2010, you obviously came in. You helped the team win the World Series. 2011, you went 11-1
that was just
with
wild.
like a 1.07 ERA, which is like
I mean,
unheard of.
Oh boy.
coming off of
Oh boy.
this is
what
one
we're
this guy.
This is NIL before NIL. NIL before us. We're living here right now with your real NIL.
This is the spot.
Better cool down because I saw you just pull it
right out of the oven. God, I can't wait to eat this though.
11. I mean, now you're a full-time starter.
Yeah, like
Were you the Saturday or Friday or Saturday guy where we slotted going in?
I didn't really know going into the season. Yeah, so obviously finish off. You don't want to be in it anywhere. Finishing off the. Here's another. Thank you. We finished off that season with a win, and I went back to my summer team that I was doing, and I went back and played first base, actually, which was awesome.
Time to go compete again.
But yeah, I came in, and I'm a junior now, so it's like I'm kind of like a leader of the team, but I also, when I was meeting with Coach Shanner, I mean, he didn't know, like, we came back in the fall, we didn't know what my role would look like. Obviously, I made the start against Clemson, and I followed that up by starting in the national championship game that we ended up winning in extra innings. But he was like, man, I don't know if we wanted you to start or if we want you to just be a big time reliever. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't care.
Just make sure I get an MVP.
Yeah. It's like, did I still get a hit? Yeah. Well, it was pretty much. I was like, is there any chance you could have I could play some outfield? And so it kind of where they ended up putting me in as starting, and kind of to start the season, it looked like I may be, I think, like a Saturday, Sunday guy. But then kind of at the last minute, I think they put me in as the Friday night guy. And they're like, hey, we don't, we had some, I think because because
as good as I remember.
Oh, man. We had, Dyson left.
Sammy.
Yeah.
Because Price was the closer, but
Price was 100%.
Yep.
Well, even him, I think even then, there was thoughts about, he was potentially going to start that year. Dyson was gone. Blake Cooper was gone. And so we really needed to, revamp our starters. Tyler Webb was in line. Nolan Belcher was coming back from being injured. So it was kind of question mark, who we were going to actually have be starting pitchers, although we had a bunch of guys coming back.
How is that in the locker room? Is it a quarterback type deal to where it's competition?
I'm the number one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was just so much availability. I don't think anybody really cared.
No.
For when I don't really remember caring whether it was Friday, Saturday, or the fifth inning.
Because you knew we were going to play either way.
Yeah, there was opportunity. They were hey, it was so clear that, and you have to have so many guys. You need at least 2 good starters, but you really have to have 3 to 4 starters that are, if you have your 1, 2, 3 guy on the weekend, you have weekday games too that people have to fill. So there's so much opportunity. It's more of who's just going to step up and grab it.
Yep.
Were you close with Sam?
Dyson? As anybody can be close with Dyson. I mean,
he's a Tampa guy, and
yeah. He was a good dude. He was a different bird.
He's a different. He still is
so a weird dude, but he would get after it in the weight room.
He means well, but he's a
he would mean well, and
he makes me look pedestrian.
That's pretty tough.
Yeah, I know. He had some troubles later in pro ball, but as a teammate at Carolina, he was fine. Sometimes the most frustrating thing about Dyson now was his arm was like he was gifted with a lightning bolt arm, and but sometimes
Twitchy.
sometimes he would super twitchy. Sometimes he would go out there and throw like 92, and you're like, is he screwing around today? Like, is he sick? Does he not feel good? And then literally one time he was just pitching like in the low 90s, and Calvi ran out there and was like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Next pitch, like 97. And we're like,
Shut up, coach.
yeah. I'm like, he was like that.
Just warming up.
And so sometimes
Oh,
you're
he's very
frustrated.
similar. Beasters on Jumbo, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes you're frustrated at that because you're like, why don't you always throw 97? You know, like, especially when I was barely throwing 87. So he was, yeah, I mean, what a stud pitcher.
Talk about closing down Rosenblatt with a national championship and then making it back in 11, opening up TD Ameritrade. Coach talked last night about the bus ride and how he stopped in front and was like, we worded it different than he did. I'm sure his was the PG version, but he's like, hey guys, we just won. We just closed down that stadium with this. This is the new one. We're going to open it up next year. And me and Steven were like, we just closed that down. Now it's time to open this shop.
Yeah. I mean, I think first off, half the team was so hungover. We're like, are you serious? Yeah. We want to get home, dude. Yeah, like we just won a World Series and you're over here trying to talk about next year, Like, you greedy SOB, But no, like he seriously did do that. He drove us by where they were building the new stadium. And I distinctly remember it. And I was like, this guy can't be serious. But honestly, that's like we were laughing about it, and joking like, can't we just enjoy this?
Right.
And we obviously did. But I think that was like, it was good. Yeah, he was a good mindset.
He knew the guys that he had and he was going to have an opportunity to do it.
He knew who was coming back. And I think, everybody recognized that. That's like, hey, enjoy this. Yeah. But when we come back in the fall, like, you're ready. Yeah. It's on again, And Coach Shaner always had saying, like, the fans are with you, win or tie. Like, if you lose,
You're on your own.
yeah. But, like, if you win or you tie, we don't tie much in baseball. That's when the fans love you. And so, that's another point. Like, each year stands on its own. So, it was like, go get after it.
Different pitching methods in the two different stadiums. Rosenblatt, shorter field, hot bats, like all the above. And then, TD is a ginormous. I think Tanner said, they had 6 home runs the first year. Yeah. In that stadium, which is unheard of for as many games that are played.
Yeah, it didn't bother me either way.
Really? No, I didn't think about it. Well,
no, I think that was also in the middle of when they switched bats, too.
That's what we were saying.
Yeah,
-3 or -5.
Yeah, like the bats.
What about that?
They switched to like BB core, which was my freshman year when Ebert was hitting these home runs with like sounded like a tennis racket, and they would just jump.
Yeah.
Jump. And then we switched to the BB core bats. Like it was a significant drop off from like carry and whatnot.
made pitching easier.
I mean, it certainly helped.
Mhm.
And then. So yeah, Rosenblatt had some like carry to it. It was kind of up on a hill. The new stadium, TD Ameritrade, was like within the city, so you didn't have the same. I guess. The elevation's probably not that different, but it was just the wind wasn't blowing differently. It felt like played like a bigger park. Yeah, especially that first year. So
Didn't change anything though with your pitching mindset. It was just go out there and do what I do.
For me, I was only like I could only be me. Yeah. That was the thing that I always kind of knew that. Like I just had to pitch how I knew how to pitch. Didn't matter whether it was like big copy up there or just some random dude. Right. Like I just had to trust who I was.
Yep.
And for who I was pitch low in the zone and throw a bunch of bull crap. And try to get people off, like push pull and keep them off balance. And so
Worked out pretty well.
It certainly helped being in a big stadium. Like you'd love to, you throw a nest pitch and it gets rocked and it gets caught on the warning track instead of going over the fence.
Nice hit, guys. You're out.
I want to hear about this ECU thing.
Okay. Yeah.
We can take it back.
Yeah, I got to hear about it.
Well, again, my freshman year, we weren't very good. Like,
No.
we just were okay. Like, we had a bunch of JUCO guys. Like, we were a very fresh team. Like, Smoke left. I think, I was
The
like,
twins were friends on that team. Or
Chris boys were on that team. But like a lot of the guys left that after junior year, like they were drafted. I think it was who's the shortstop played with the Mets? Reese Haven, maybe.
Yes.
There was a bunch of studs that left, you know. So this was like the freshman year was kind of like a rebuild year, which Coach Singer probably wouldn't want to say that, but there was just we had a bunch of new faces. And we just weren't good enough pitching wise, you know. But we made it to a regional, go to ECU, and I was pitching like clean up dirt innings, you know. But you go to ECU and their fans were rednecks, and I mean they just were like. You run into some fans that were good fans that would like give you a hard time, and then maybe after the game, like in Arkansas, they'd give you a hard time. Then after the game, like they'd be cool with you.
Yep.
The ECU fans were not that. They would rag you. They'd be like,
The whole way.
"Oh, your girlfriend on Facebook, blah blah," you know, just say some stuff that you're like, "These people are me," you know, like it's ridiculous. So
That's funny. I mean, we always have the guy sitting out in the right field who's just like the heckler who just always goes at it, does all his research, has his little notepad that he probably pulls out. He's like, this guy's girlfriend's name is this. This guy's mom's name is this.
well, that was the thing. I mean, I wasn't even like a real player, you know. And they're
Yeah, bullpen.
like,
they were heckling you in the
like I
bullpen.
was in the bullpen warming up, and they're like rattling off like, well, I used to like be Facebook stuff and like talking about my mom and my sister, and I'm like, y'all don't even like. I'm probably not even getting in this game.
But you're
wasting your
in my head,
energy.
like, crazy. I'm like,
What the hell? You know? So, yeah, and that was, and we lost, and that was like a tough loss because we were right there to potentially advance. And we weren't good enough. Like, we weren't good enough to advance, which was good. Like, as much as it sucked to lose, like, it was good.
Kind of learn from
At
it.
that time to see that and be like, man, we've got to get better.
No,
you
you
know?
brought that up.
And I think like that next year, for those of us that lost there and that had that sting, it helped to go into 2010, you know?
All right, jumping forward, 11 out there. You guys have a lot of hype. Obviously, you won it the year before. Did the team feel pressure? Like you were letting everybody down if you didn't? I mean, you can talk about this on 11 and 12, like both like kind of back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so in 11, I mean, all throughout the year, we just had some setbacks before we even could get to Omaha. I mean, Jackie got hurt at a series. Like we had Steven Neff, who was a pitcher. He was playing outfield and hitting doubles. Like I think he hit like some stupid amount of doubles. And Evan had some like heart procedure that he had to have one weekend. Like we were taping wins together through the SEC, and it like I wouldn't say we ever panicked. It was just we had guys that were like, "Hey man, we're supposed to win. Like we'll figure out how to win," and that's what we did.
Well, it all goes into Coach Tanner's coaching philosophy. Like he wasn't afraid to play small ball. I mean, he was going to manipulate runs. If we can score 3, we got a chance to win. Like I mean, Carolina wasn't a team that was going to score 10, 12 runs.
Oh no, he would let you play, but if you weren't doing something, he would try to force something to happen.
Yep.
You know, whether it's like hit and run, and bunting wasn't big for him, but like he's like, if you guys aren't going to figure it out, like I'm going to force something.
Yep.
And which is, I mean, it's just smart. Again, you got 18 to 22-year-olds that you just can't let them swing away.
Yep.
Like, I mean, you can until if they don't, they have to do something else. You know? And so like we had a lot of things we had some injuries, we had a lot of things to get there, but I mean, I think we had it tough. I think that may have been when we played Georgia Southern at home, and I mean, they were they weren't anybody to sneeze at. I think I started that Friday, and whoever was at Georgia Southern, they had some stud pitcher, and I think we won like 2-1 or 3-1 or something, and I threw like 8, and he threw like I threw 8 innings. He may have thrown like 7 or 8 innings or something.
Dogfight.
Yeah, it was tight, and we ended up going on, and we win the regional here. which was obviously huge to host. And then I think we played UConn, and they had George Springer in the outfield, maybe Barnes, who played with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of guys too, and we won 2 straight games there. And so it was, we just had the right mindset. Like we knew we were good, but we also would joke about, right, man, if we go back and win this, like, we're going to get tattoos on our ass, or something. I don't think anybody ended up getting them.
But keeping it lighthearted. Like, having the pressure, a little bit of it, but also like joking and shrugging it off. No, that's the mindset you almost have to have. Like,
yeah, like, I mean,
Where do you think that stems from? Is that from the locker room, or is that from Coach Tanner kind of letting you guys, as you mentioned earlier, just kind of, as you guys got older, just
I think it was
kind of let you guys
I think
go?
it was the characters in the locker room. Like, you guys had a lot.
That's what I think.
yeah, I mean,
But Tanner's got a lot of that, right?
Coach Tanner set, like, the vision, right? He's like, hey, the expectation is to win. And, I mean, nobody in there, right, anybody who's a competitor, like we all are, and you're on up, like, you don't expect any different either.
Nope.
But it's just, how do you go about doing that? And, we knew we had a good enough team, but we also knew, like, you're introducing a new group of young guys. Like, there's people that you lose, there's people that have to step up. And so we knew we had enough to be good, but the goal was always like, let's win our last game. And that's, if you do that, you're in Omaha.
Yep.
And so we just kept putting together enough of the right stuff. Like, we'd go out there and compete. And the goal, like, it's never like after weekend one, we're like, all right, 1 week down, going to Omaha. It's just like, you win the game at hand and you have fun.
Yep.
And that's what we're good at. Like, to your point, like, we've just find a way to win.
Yep. All right, 11, you win it again. TD, and then going into 12, you're back-to-back. You're the Friday guy. This is your 4th year now. Expectations are crazy high. Talk about the pressure of that, how you coped with it.
Thank you.
And then how you did that and had a kick-ass year again. I mean, how you backed her up.
Right. Well, before we go there, I can mention when I got to Omaha in 2011, that's when I had a billboard.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Tell us the billboards.
Yes.
So I'd actually been pre-warned. Like, somebody shot me a text and was like, you're on this billboard. This is free NIL or whatever. And so we show up to the park. It's a brand new park, obviously. And right where we parked, I think it was like the right field line. Your face is because I shiver. And huge billboard or neon there. I mean, so the guys
that voted well on the bus ride in.
Ragging, like, just giving me so much shit. And it was deserved, But I was on this billboard, and I hadn't, like, I had no clue. And, back then when you signed your
life away, yeah, for nothing.
Got $40 a weekend.
Yeah, we got our meal money, which was exciting.
If you made all your classes.
Rates back then, though, $40 in our pocket.
Yeah,
at least here it goes.
I 100% felt rich when we get meal money. And so, yeah, and we go on and we win, and obviously it was ridiculous. You win back to back, and it was exciting. The post party in 2011 was a lot harder because we were like further out, and we're like 20 minutes away. But obviously I had a good time, and then I missed the parade because I was studying abroad in Spain. So, like, we won on our athlete. Yeah, student athlete, May y'all know. May y'all know Miguel, yeah. Yes, I literally, we won on was it a Tuesday? And, like, we flew back Wednesday. And, like, I'm scrambling, packing my stuff up on Thursday. And
couldn't get my credit hours.
And I'd been drafted, and so Thursday I'm like packing my shit up and just to pack some stuff to go to Spain. And my flight was out of Greenville. And so I'm driving home to go to Greenville to fly out on a Friday. And the Indians drafted me, and they're like, hey, so we heard you're going to space. I was like, yeah. Yeah, it was great. Awesome. I was like, I get back August 8th. That gives us a week to negotiate. Like, and I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I talked to Tanner, and they were like, hey, we'd love for you to come back. If you come back, we can help your scholarship a little bit. And but I mean, my intent was always to come back. Like, I never thought I was not coming back. And a big driver of that was Busher was our coach. He was our student coach, and I guess he was in his, I don't know, years, but he was probably early 30s, and he had a pretty good career. Like, he was up and down for parts of 5 years.
He's one now. He's the
okay. But I mean, he was like, man, this year's been the hardest one of my life. Like, you know, my wife went back to work. I'm in school, not making any money. Like, my bank account's just going down. And that was like a big thing that I kept thinking is, man, it would just be nice to have your degree in your back pocket.
You know how to stress.
You know, if you go play, like, if I was fortunate enough to go play professionally, and even then I didn't know if, like, that was my path. Right. Then I would just, if I go play professionally and then it doesn't work out, I could just go get a real job, I guess. So I went to Spain, had a blast, show up back home with, like, you know, you had to sign by the 15th back then.
It was like a Tebow thing too, right? Didn't they have the stage out and like had you out?
Me?
Game was full.
No. No, they're like showing up behind. Yeah. Well, that's like the Indians came and met with me, and I mean, it's funny. Like, I think about going into that year, I was like, man, if they offered me like $100,000, I'm 100% going. That's so much money. Yep. You know, and we never really got to like talking money with the Indians, but it just made sense for me to come back. So I knew I was coming back, but also when I was in, I'll never forget this, I was in Mallorca. Like, we were staying in Alicante, but like we would go on weekend trips with the people that I was studying with. I didn't know anybody over there. Like, I went and didn't know anybody. And so like we met some of these people in like our class group. We went to Mallorca for the weekend. We're at this hostel, and that was BlackBerry Messenger back then. So my BBM, I'm like hitting up Adam Matthews, and he's like, I'm coming back. And Ryan Fisher had taken like a GA job. And so that was like our roommate, and then Kish was going to be there. And so I'm like, let's go. I'm coming back too. And, I was like, this is great.
And like I didn't text anybody and like blacked out in Mallorca the next day. And
but like, it kind of worked out where Ryan was staying in Colombia. Rob was going to be there. Adam was coming back. He got drafted, so he was coming back for the next year. And so it was like, man, I'm 100% coming back. And unless there's some crazy thing that happens. And so came back, and that's when 2012 comes, and then you're like the old guy, Then you're the old dude.
The old head. Yeah. Go ahead and coach this team for us. You know how this goes.
All right, boys and girls, hopefully you enjoyed that first portion of it. Make sure you stay your ass here. Stay tuned. We got the second half. Better stories. The beers were flowing. Make sure you tune in a couple weeks to catch the second part of that Michael Roth interview.